Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Gilligan. I'm the Vice President of Operations at RVA757 Connects. Thanks for joining us this afternoon for the latest edition of our RVA757 Connects Innovation Spotlight webinar series. Today, we have a very fascinating program to talk about how Hampton Roads is emerging as a hub for hydrogen and energy innovation. A lot of detail, and we're looking forward to hearing more about that. But first, let me just go over a couple things. This is what we're going to talk about today. Well, I'll introduce you to our this month's webinar sponsor. I'll give you a quick update on RVA757 Connects. Then we'll delve into today's topic, and then we'll leave some time at the very end for some questions and answers. This is a reminder, we do record all of our webinars, and so you'll be able to view this particular webinar and any of our webinars for that matter, but this one later this afternoon on our website. Also, if you have questions, please use the chat function and send them to me. RVA757 Connects is a nonprofit organization, and as such, we rely on donations for our operations. One of our corporate investors is Atlantic Union Bank, and they are our sponsor this month for our webinar. And to help tell us more about Atlantic Union Bank is Andrew Kerr. And Andrew has been in commercial banking for over 25 years, including the past 11 years with Atlantic Union Bank, where he serves as the Richmond Market President and team leader for Richmond's middle market and specialty banking team. Throughout his career as a relationship manager, Andrew has worked with numerous businesses and nonprofit organizations located throughout Central Virginia. He's a graduate of the University of Richmond's Robbins School of Business. And so, Andrew, tell us a little bit more about Atlantic Union Bank.
Yeah, well, thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for the next installment of the RVA 757 Connects monthly webinar series. As Greg mentioned, my name is Andy Kerr. I'm the Richmond Market President for Atlantic Union Bank. The bank's a proud corporate sponsor of RVA 757 Connects, and we truly appreciate the work being done by John, Greg, Adair, and the board to help drive intentional collaboration between Richmond and Hampton Roads, with the goal of advancing economic growth and prosperity for the whole region. I just wanted to take a quick minute to share a few highlights about Atlantic Union Bank. So we trace our history back to 1902. We're the largest regional bank based in Virginia, headquartered right in Richmond. We have well over 125 branches and offices that stretch from Maryland to South Carolina. But with that being said, our focus remains on Virginia. And as you can see on this footprint map here, we are very heavily concentrated in the I-64 Innovation Corridor. Greg, I'll ask you to go to the next slide. We like to say here at the bank that we have all the capabilities of the larger banks, but we have the ability to deliver those products and services with a local and individual touch. And I think that's important in building great client relationships. Greg, just next slide. We feel our culture and delivery model has been really well received in the markets in which we serve, and it's great to be regularly recognized by our clients and peers and really those who follow the banking industry. But I really just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today for the webinar. I'm really excited about the program, and with that, I'll turn it back over to Greg to get us started. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that information about Atlantic Union Bank. And also, thank you to Maria Tedesco. Maria, who is the president of Atlantic Union Bank, serves on our board. We also want to take this opportunity to also thank all of our corporate sponsors and individual sponsors for their financial support of our organization. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on with RVA 757 Connects. We are an organization that's bringing the power of convening, connecting, and collaborating with our mission of dedicated to improving the economic success and quality of life for everyone in the Richmond, which we call RVA, and Hampton Roads, often called 757 regions. We are an association of leaders representing businesses and community and higher education, and we're advancing the Richmond to Hampton Roads mega region that we call the I-64 Innovation Corridor. You can see here that we're pursuing several different priorities. We're helping the I-64 Innovation Corridor become a global internet hub, for instance. More on that just in a moment. We also advocated for the widening of Interstate 64 between Bottoms Bridge and Williamsburg. And that is now fully funded and construction has started, and that will be finished by 2028. So you see, if you're driving down Interstate 64, as we did yesterday on our way to Williamsburg, the construction is ongoing. And there will be 3 lanes in each direction in 2028. You can read more about all of our initiatives and our priorities on our website at RVA757Connects.com. Let me highlight our big annual conference, which we call Convergence, which was held yesterday in Williamsburg, as I just mentioned. Convergence is our annual day-long interregional gathering of representatives from the Richmond and Hampton Roads regions, sponsored by Chamber RVA, the Hampton Roads Chamber, and RVA757 Connects. We had a record 180 plus registered people attending yesterday. We had a record number of sponsors as well. We had some great and engaging content and discussions. Those who attended gained an in-depth understanding of the I-64 Innovation Corridor's 3 pivotal global gateways, the spaceport, the seaport, and our digital port, and heard directly from the various leaders driving these particular initiatives. We, as you can see here, we had Stephen Edwards, for instance, from the Port of Virginia, talking about what was happening at the seaport in Hampton Roads. We ended the day with a session gaining insight from our top business leaders in the I-64 Innovation Corridor as they shared their current perspectives and the importance of RVA and 757 areas working closer together. We heard from Bob Liu from Dominion Energy, Jennifer Boykin from Newport News Shipbuilding, and Tom McInerney from Genworth Financial. Catherine Rowe, who is the president of William & Mary, moderated that particular session. It was well attended and well, everyone got a lot out of it. I just want to mention that our all of our PowerPoint presentations from Convergence are available on our website under the Convergence tab there, as you can see. If you click on that, then you'll be taken to a page that looks something similar to this. And underneath each person's name who had a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, if you click on the blue box, their PowerPoint presentation will pop up. Later this week, the videos from each of these sessions also will be available to watch as well. And we had some big news yesterday. PCs for People founder and CEO Casey Sorensen flew in from Minneapolis and officially announced at Convergence yesterday that PCs for People has selected the Richmond and Hampton Roads mega region as its next expansion market. PCs for People is the largest and most successful national nonprofit computer refurbisher operating in large U.S. markets with a vision to end the digital divide. PCs for People collects outdated computers at no cost for the donating businesses and organizations. Then they take those computers and they refurbish them, and they install the latest software. They provide these renewed desktop systems to underserved residents and families for free, up to late model laptops of up to $150. In addition, PCs for People provides free toll-free tech support services and ongoing computer training for those people who get these particular computers. The nonprofit organization has been perfecting this model for over the past 20 years, partnering with thousands of companies and organizations and other local refurbishers as well. PCs for People currently operates in 10 major markets across the U.S., including Atlanta and Baltimore. Those are the closest to the Richmond area and Hampton Roads markets. And they're looking at expanding maybe into Phoenix and Dallas in the next couple of years. But they're coming to the Richmond and Hampton Roads mega region first. They should be operational here sometime by next year. If you want to get involved, go to pcsforpeople.org and you can get more information about them. And that dovetails nicely into one of our top priorities at RVA757 Connects, which is our efforts, where we're spearheading our efforts to designate this mega region as a global internet hub. We spent much of 2022 and last year developing a strategic plan. Now we're implementing that particular plan. But the bottom line of it all is that we have the digital assets to put our mega region on the global internet hub map. We have a plan that we're following. Because when you view the Richmond area and the Hampton Roads together, we have the core competencies or digital assets in place needed to become a global internet hub. The world's next global energy hub isn't going to be just one single city, but rather America's 12th largest mega region, known as the I-64 Innovation Corridor, that extends all the way from the Richmond region all the way down to Hampton Roads. You may have seen this 3-foot by 2-foot map, but this explains visually how the I-64 Innovation Corridor becomes a global internet hub by combining the digital assets. If you would like to have an actual copy of this map, please let me know. Email me and I'll get you a copy sent to you. On the flip side of that particular map is the brochure, which talks about our 10 strategies. And you can also go to our website or the website of globalinternethub.com and click on the map there if you'd like to help us spread the word as to what's going on. Now let's turn to today's topic. We are going to delve into how hydrogen fits into the Commonwealth of Virginia's energy and economic growth plans, and how the Hampton Roads region is emerging as a hub for hydrogen innovation. Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center in Newport News is spearheading the Hydrogen Tech Center initiative, which is a collaborative of hydrogen research and demonstration project that aims to better define and showcase how clean hydrogen and other emerging technologies could play a role in the region's energy mix. That project is being funded by a grant from Go Virginia Region 5 and from other public and private partners. Now let's talk to, let's see, now we have a great group of speakers and stuff, and they include Chelsea Jenkins Oliveira. Chelsea just became the managing director of the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center in Newport News about 2 weeks ago, I believe. So she's fresh out of it all. We have Ryan Dorland, who is the Economic Development Energy Analyst for the Virginia Department of Energy. And finally, we have Alex Taylor, who's the Senior Business Manager in Virginia Economic Development Partnership, to talk to us about this. Before I turn it over to everybody, I just want to remind, if you have questions, please send them to me through the chat function. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen now, and I'm going to let Chelsea, you can start sharing your screen.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, Andrew, for sponsoring RVA757 Connects in this webinar. And I am so excited to be with everyone today for lots of different reasons. I spent the last 2.5 years actually living in Richmond and commuting back and forth from Virginia Beach to Richmond on a weekly basis. So it's fitting that my first presentation outside of the governor's office is with your organization, Greg. And a lot of what I spent my time on with the administration is actually on energy topics. And I worked very closely with these brilliant colleagues that we have here today, Alex Taylor with VEDP and Ryan Dorland with the Department of Energy, and sending prayers to all of you out there in Big Stone Gap. Ryan's been a trooper. He didn't have power for a couple of days, and so was able to finally get internet access to throw some slides in there this morning. So we really appreciate everyone working hard to pull this together. And I think when a couple weeks ago, when I realized that the CRC was on deck to give this presentation, it gave me the opportunity to really dig in and ask a lot of questions, kind of with a fresh perspective about this Hydrogen Tech Center project. And the beauty, I think, of having the CRC represented along with DOE and VEDP in kind of the sandwich fashion that we've designed today is that the Department of Energy is, they develop the state's energy plan. They update it every couple of years. They have subject matter experts in all kinds of different areas, including specific energy sources like hydrogen. And then the Virginia Department, or the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, is the economic development organization for the Commonwealth. And they work with a lot of the regional and local economic developers and support a lot of companies interested in expanding or relocating in the state and provide incentives to help them do that. So what we thought we'd do today was just kind of start with, what is hydrogen? how is it produced, what are the various end uses, then go into why the Hydrogen Tech Center project was developed in the first place and why Hampton Roads and Tech Center Research Park made a lot of sense. And then how we're kind of viewing the world of last February when the original project was proposed and developed to fast forwarding to now, and how the new world order has changed in lots of different ways, including some of the opportunities that were on the table, and then kind of end with what does that mean from an economic growth, economic development perspective? What are companies asking for when they're interested in locating to Virginia, and how do they source specific energy sources? And then also within the supply chain, the only way that we're going to grow this hydrogen hub is to attract hydrogen and adjacent industries and the supply chain to the Hampton Roads region and beyond, so that we can, be a globally recognized hub and access the world-class port that we know and love, as well as all the other infrastructure we have in the state. And then we'll end with, how do you get involved? We get that question a lot. There's like 10,000 websites that exist for various Virginia state agencies when you add them all up. And so a lot of the questions that we often get are, who is the human that is the best person to help me navigate whatever, I'm interested in accomplishing? And then we'll, as Greg said, end with some questions. So we're going to start with kind of some background information that Ryan's going to review.
Thank you, Chelsea. We can back it up one slide. Just to give you a brief 10,000-foot overview of hydrogen. Most of us might be aware it's a clean burning fuel, and it can be manufactured in Virginia. Now, very simply, hydrogen can be made by splitting water using electricity. There's also other ways to make it, though, including particular metals added with water that can produce hydrogen as a byproduct. Hydrogen gas does not pollute when it is combusted, when it is burned. It just produces water. But now, Virginia can enter this clean transportation fuel industry while cleaning up its air and its water. But when we talk about this pathway, what we're really talking about is green hydrogen. Can we move to the next slide, please? Oh, next slide, please.
Yeah, I am. Is there another button down there? I think I'm gonna have to do it this way. There you go.
Thank you. When we talk about hydrogen, there's often all these different flavors or colors of hydrogen that people will talk about. Now, we're really interested in the types of hydrogen that are on the left-hand side of this screen, especially green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is produced by electrolysis of water, so zero CO2 emissions are produced in this process. We're essentially splitting water and recombining it to hydrogen and oxygen. Now, there are also other ways to produce hydrogen that are relatively clean. Pink hydrogen is hydrogen produced by electrolysis, but using nuclear power. Blue hydrogen can be produced from fossil fuels, and the CO2 that is produced from this process can be stored or repurposed. There are several projects throughout the United States that are currently beginning to produce or attempting to produce blue hydrogen, where the CO2 will be sequestered. Turquoise is also an interesting color of hydrogen, where this is produced through thermal splitting of methane through a process called pyrolysis. Now, in this process, solid carbon is produced, which can be used for other industrial processes. There's a lot of R&D that is currently going on in this process. It is not as, it is environmentally friendly, but it is not as developed as some of the other processes. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, we have some of the other processes that produce hydrogen, but also usually produce emissions. The most common of these four is gray hydrogen, where hydrogen is extracted from natural gas but it also produces a lot of CO2 emissions that will be released to the atmosphere. Usually, producing hydrogen through natural gas, for 1 ton of hydrogen produced, will produce anywhere between 6 and 9 tons of CO2. This is the most common method right now. There's also yellow hydrogen, where we're using electricity off the grid to produce hydrogen, but that may also produce emissions depending on the fuel sources that are used. White hydrogen has a couple of different characteristics. One is producing it using industrial processes where hydrogen is a byproduct. This is the most common type. There's also naturally occurring deposits of hydrogen that can be found throughout the world. There may be some located in the central part of the United States, Australia, and Russia. These would be considered clean hydrogen sources if they are extracted using methods that don't produce CO2. Next slide, please. To give a sense of where we are today, the left-hand side of this diagram shows the sources of US hydrogen supply within the United States. The majority of hydrogen within the United States is produced through natural gas reformation, producing CO2 emissions. This is the gray hydrogen that we talk about. The majority of that is used for petroleum refining, but also ammonia production and other chemical production processes. There is white hydrogen, but it is primarily produced by byproducts of other chemical processes. The one that we're most interested in is this little sliver to date that is green hydrogen, produced primarily through electrolysis. The majority, if not all of this, goes into the transportation sector. And as you can see on the right-hand side, the transportation sector currently is a small slice of the demand for hydrogen. But when we look at this, we have both a small supply and currently a small demand. There is definitely some growth potential both on the supply side and in the demand side related to transportation. Next slide, please. Virginia is really positioned or poised for the growth of hydrogen technologies, both on the production side, but also on the demand side. So there are a couple of ways here that we can either produce hydrogen or use hydrogen in transportation and various industries. For producing hydrogen, we make use of electrolyzers that convert water and electricity into H2, into hydrogen. There's many ways to do this, but one of the interesting ways is to use a solid oxide catalyst in this process. There was a recent announcement that global clean energy manufacturer Topsoe from Denmark, it will be investing $400 million in Virginia, in Chesterfield County, for production of solid oxide electrolyzers. So this is a big announcement that was released previous this year, and it shows that we will be looking at production of technologies that can produce hydrogen within Virginia. On the other side, for use for transportation, when we talk about fuel cells are technologies that convert hydrogen gas into water and electricity. It's essentially the reverse process of the electrolyzer. And this is a technology that can be used within the transportation industry for aviation and especially for long distance maritime shipping. So there's a possibility here on the demand side to be using this gas within the Hampton Roads area. Next slide, please. So why now? Well, part of this is there is plenty of federal funding that's stimulating the hydrogen economy nationwide and within the state. We can discuss these opportunities a little bit later. But in addition to that, there are some R&D breakthroughs that are pushing this process along. The electrolysis process, while still expensive, is becoming more efficient. This is one of those technology areas where the costs are going down. And also the metals to hydrogen technology route is nearing market readiness. So both of these processes can help meet these cost targets for producing hydrogen gas. And this second pathway, the metals to hydrogen pathway, may also use waste metals in the process. There's also public-private pressure. Customers and investors are demanding cleaner solutions, and hydrogen gas is definitely one of those solutions. Both from the production and the demand side, the Hampton Roads area, it can help meet these targets. And also this can provide additional energy sources for growth. With that, I'll pass it back to you, Chelsea.
Thanks, Ryan. That was great. And so I'm just going to quickly review the Corporate Research Center and the various activities that we have throughout the state. And quite frankly, I, until about a month ago, didn't recognize how much Virginia Tech has going on throughout the state and all of these different markets. And I also didn't fully appreciate until recently that, we have the Virginia Tech Foundation that's been around for 75 years, since 1948. And its sole purpose is to manage the endowment and real estate portfolio of Virginia Tech. It's valued at about $2.8 billion today. It's led by former Supreme Court Justice Elizabeth McClanahan, and she is incredible if you haven't met her before. But what a lot of folks don't know is that the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of the Virginia Tech Foundation. And it's essentially, the CRC is a research park that catalyzes commercialization and industry collaboration. We like to think about it as a place and a paradigm that allows industry to access Virginia Tech's intellectual capital. And there are several research parks located throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Roanoke, for those in that region, the Roanoke market focus is to capitalize on Virginia Tech's strengths in medical education and biomedical and biotechnical research. There's an incredible amount of effort going on collaboratively with Carillion, as well as Bradford and Roanoke and a lot of other private companies to create a biotech core innovation corridor. I was just there last week, and they have an innovation lab that is truly one of a kind. Blacksburg is the original, and Blacksburg really focuses on connecting startups, helping launch startup companies, all the way through bringing large companies in and connecting them with the intellectual capital and world-class innovative research of the university. Newport News is the newest campus, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on today, and that's my primary focus in this new managing director role. And for some of the reasons we'll talk about, I can't even overstate how excited I am about Newport News and the Hampton Roads and the mega region and the opportunities we have to take a double distress area and create truly transformational opportunities. It's going to change a lot of lives and put Virginia on the map in ways that we've never been present for before. So this is an image of what we call Tech Center Research Park in Newport News. And we have obviously the city of Newport News as an incredible partner, WM Jordan as well. There's and you can see that there's so many assets already there at Tech Center Research Park, but literally within a mile or two, we also have Huntington Ingalls, we have shipbuilding and repair capabilities, we have the nuclear Navy. There's a ton of opportunity to really bring together some initiatives that have been cooking for a long time and home them at Tech Center Research Park and share this intellectual capital and research opportunity. And then also, hopefully everyone's heard that Jefferson Lab that Virginia's been home to for quite a while did win the DOE award to build a high performance data facility. So this exascale computing capability is going to be one of the most advanced in the world. And I just learned this last week. JLab is actually responsible for producing a third of the nuclear physicists in the country. And I wish that we would shout that out more. I think that's an incredible capability. Also, going back to some of what Ryan alluded to is the energy transition is happening and everything about everything is changing. And we are changing sources. Load growth is off the charts. We're retiring base load generation and putting in new technologies that also aren't fully commercially available. And nuclear has in recent years emerged as a very promising generation technology to provide firm baseload generation while we're retiring some of these more polluting fossil sources. And so the fact that we have Jefferson Lab right there, we have the nuclear Navy right there, and Huntington Ingalls, and now we're developing kind of this hydrogen tech center where pink hydrogen comes into play. I think that there's just truly an incredible opportunity to create this clean energy hub in the Commonwealth of Virginia and overlap all of the defense and the cybersecurity and quantum and AI computing capabilities that we're going to be developing in collaboration with Jefferson Lab. So why Hampton Roads for a hydrogen tech center? Why Tech Center Research Park? If any of you have been to Hampton Roads Alliance meetings over the last, I guess, 6 or so months, you've heard maybe Bruce Katz speak, and there's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot of disruption happening. And so we've been kind of grappling with in the region, there's this new economic order developing and unfolding, and we're looking at reshoring, decarbonizing, and remilitarizing all at the same time, not even taking into account the grid-related challenges that we've been talking about. And so we like to think of Hampton Roads as a military metro, and there are other military metros throughout the nation that are trying to figure out, where do we stand in this new economic order? How do we capitalize on this while bringing economic growth opportunities to our state, our region, our localities, and then also creating a lot of opportunity across the nation to collaborate to keep us safer and ensure that we're prosperous. And so I think that we'll talk about that. Hampton Roads is just in an incredible position. Part of it is marketing and talking about the assets that we have, and historically things like nuclear and military and things like that we didn't necessarily publicize very widely, but I think because of a lot of this this disruption happening and the opportunities on a global scale happening, that it's time for us to start speaking very proudly and boldly about the assets we have in the region, and then extending that into the mega region in the internet corridor that Greg was talking about. So we're taking that just in terms of like the global macro things happening, and then also within the Commonwealth and the greater PJM, who's our regional transmission organization, essentially the grid operator. There is a ton of disruption happening within our grid. Our family, I like to think of it as our family, is the PJM region. We're all connected, and Virginia kind of led the way with some policies, and then a lot of other states followed. And so we have retirement of firm baseload generation that's being replaced with intermittent renewable sources. We have unprecedented load growth because the state is the global internet hub, which we should be proud about, and we want to keep all of these companies in the state and thriving. And so there's a lot of stress on the grid. And a couple of years ago, the Energy Office boldly took the lead to map all of this out. It hadn't been done in a long time to look holistically, comprehensively at the Commonwealth of Virginia. Just very basically, the supply and the demand picture is what do we have on the generation side? What are we producing? And how does that match up or not with what is demanded taking into account economic and load growth. And what we found is, oh no, we need to maybe think more strategically about this gap. And all of this load growth has just kind of happened. And a lot of this disruption has just kind of happened. And a lot of the conversations I'm in, I, try to remind everyone that we should give ourselves some grace and not necessarily panic or blame or, have negative emotions about it, because a lot of this just happened if you look in the span of history. And so we're trying to fit all of these things into one tiny little funnel all at the same time and produce a unicorn on the other side that has zero trade-offs. And that's just not the real world. And so I think when we work together, like within your organization, Greg, and collaboratively as a mega region and as a Commonwealth and as a nation, I think that even though these challenges are stressful and scary, I think that we have the innovators and the drive, especially here in the Commonwealth. And so Hampton Roads, because of just this new economic order and our military metro positioning and a lot of the assets and clean tech that we've already developed through the offshore wind project, which, by the way, is one of the most successful in the country right now, moving along still on time and on budget, which isn't the case with any other offshore wind developments in the country. And you take into account our defense and advanced manufacturing and high performance computing and all of the other related supply chain, couple that with the world-class port that we have and the consortium of talent that's been developed that we can tap into. And also the place, Hampton Roads and Richmond are incredible places to live. People want to live, work, and play and raise their families in these areas. And so we got a lot going for us if we can just connect the dots and work together, I think, collaboratively. Some of our challenge as a region and as a mega region, it just comes down to geography and co-location and concentration and connectivity. And so we feel if we do a better job at thinking strategically and co-locating and ensuring that we're connecting the right dots and we have transparent and open communication, that we can truly develop new tech hubs that are trading powerhouses across the globe, and Virginia will emerge as the place to be in a lot of these areas that will be very important for many decades to come. And so along with this Hampton Roads investment playbook that's being developed by some of the smartest people I've ever met, we like to think that this energy investment innovation playbook could truly address the problem, the complex challenge of how do we meet load growth? And also, how do we transition the grid to be completely different at the same time? And Virginia Tech, I think that's one of the reasons that Go Virginia awarded this project to Virginia Tech's Corporate Research Center and the Hampton Roads Roundtable, is because, like we briefly talked about, Virginia Tech is globally recognized by its innovative research and the talent. And I won't spend all of this time, and I'm still learning, but it truly is incredible, the resources and the institutes and the programs like Link, License, and Launch that exist within the university and been developed by a lot of smart people. So the Hydrogen Tech Center, it was awarded last year, mid-year, and kind of kicked off at the end of the year. And the project wants to accomplish 3 primary goals. That's initiate 3 to 5 hydrogen transition projects to drive local industry investments. And we've done a lot of this work already. I'll talk about that briefly. Establish a hydrogen competency and demo center to educate and attract new businesses to Virginia, and also go back to the original research part goal, which is to tap into the intellectual energy of the university and connect the dots with all of the assets we have in the Newport News and Greater Hampton Roads and mega region, and then create an advanced workforce and talent capability to support the clean energy sector, knowing that hydrogen has a lot of adjacent industries and it closely aligns with other sources like nuclear, for example. And so the first objective, like I said, was related to what are the use cases? We are not California, we're not Texas, we're not the Northeast, we're not Colorado, we're Virginia. And so we have our own specific challenges and our own specific opportunities. And so the team, the very capable team, made 274 contacts around the globe and had meaningful conversations and meetings and collected a lot of data and narrowed that down to 100 companies that have been engaged in various coalitions that were formed around these various use cases. There's a ton of data that I'm still processing myself, and we're happy to continue sharing that helps map out what might make the most sense in the near term versus the medium term versus the long term. And then what are we dependent on to for example, to see the marine sector take off as it relates to hydrogen. And so there was a lot of also mapping of the ecosystem partners, and there's a few slides I have, but I'm happy to share those after the presentation. The second objective is establishing this hydrogen demonstration and competency center. As we know, we're not always the best at educating and marketing, but in order to really develop a strategic plan and implement it well, everyone's got to understand what they're trying to achieve and why it's important and why they're investing in it. And so that is something that we're working through with these consortiums and user groups. And there's a few different options, including an indoor experience that also includes virtual reality, as well as partnering with some big companies on an outdoor working pilot program that can demonstrate refueling as an example. The City of Newport News and WM Jordan and a lot of other partners have been very supportive of helping us work through with the funding that we have from Go Virginia. What can we actually do to have the largest impact that also attracts more businesses and researchers, et cetera, to Newport News and the research park in the greater region. And then the third objective is this technical workforce training piece of it. And there's already several Virginia Tech faculty that have been working on gap analyses and looking at different curriculum and programming, and also different scenarios of how this industry could evolve in Virginia specifically. And then there's already been a few training courses, pilot training courses, and workshops that have been held to begin iterating how everyone is going to learn the best and engage in this education and workforce piece of the project. So over the last year or so, there's been a lot of work already done that we're proud of, and there's a great team on the ground working on these things that have provided a lot of great feedback. Also, the utilities in terms of how they think about hydrogen, how they're investing in, which is really important to the strategic vision and plan for Hampton Roads and for Tech Center Research Park. And we're going to continue growing that. If your company or organization fits into this conversation, we'd love to plug you into one of these consortiums and user groups, because this is it's complicated. And I think I mentioned, or maybe I didn't, when we applied for this last year, there was a large hydrogen hub opportunity, $150 million that was on the table that a lot of people worked on together across the Commonwealth. We ended up not getting that award. And so now we're, we've been resetting a little bit because that kind of changed the direction of this project. And I think that's important, is sometimes to take a deep breath and say, okay, what is the world order that we're in now? What are the challenges and the opportunities, and to continue iterating until, collaboratively we create the best opportunity for the Commonwealth. And so we're going to transition to Alex, who is brilliant, I will say, and does a great job on site related things and talking to energy companies. And he's just going to talk about how the industries, energy tech, climate tech, et cetera, kind of view Virginia and the questions he gets.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. Great presentation. I feel like just between you and Ryan, I've already doubled or tripled my hydrogen knowledge. It's definitely kind of the blind spot for me in the emerging energy space, at least outside of the green and pink hydrogen, which we've had a lot of conversations with companies about. So really appreciate that overview. Yeah, so I'm a project manager at VDP, and one of my focus areas is emerging energy. The bulk of my time in that space over the last 18 months has really been focused on the nuclear side. However, we've had a lot of energy around, I got to stop saying that because it really is no pun intended. I catch the pun after I say it, but a lot of time and energy has been diverted now, or not diverted so much as just expanded into the hydrogen space, because we're getting a lot of questions from companies that are interested in Virginia about what the future of hydrogen is. And I think as we all start to figure out what that looks like, we know, and I think companies also understand, that Virginia is incredibly positioned for taking advantage of this, as you described it, Chelsea, this really this transition in the energy space globally. We're already very well positioned and very well respected with our nuclear industry as it exists now, and looks to continue to grow, both with existing companies, our workforce as well. But in the hydrogen space, there's a real opportunity here to take advantage of what is kind of a new energy source compared to nuclear, which obviously has an extensive history in this country going back to the 50s. And I think that the biggest piece for me, and one of our big talking points in the case that we make for Virginia, and especially for the 64 corridor, is the access. So the port access, the rail access, the access to industry, the access to workforce. And when I say industry, it's really talking about the existing industry and how it can take advantage of some of these new emerging energies. And so a big piece of that is really you talk about being a future hub of internet, but the existing data center base that is in Virginia is just unmatched. 70% of the world's internet runs through Northern Virginia, and a big part of that is because of the cables coming onshore in the Hampton Roads region. And that's only growing. I think Northern Virginia is the largest data center market in the world. In terms of combining like the next 10 center markets, they don't touch what Northern Virginia has. And actually in that next tier of data center markets globally, in the top 10 is what's considered Southern Virginia. And we've had conversations, we're trying to figure out what that means. We're pretty sure that means everywhere outside of Northern Virginia, which includes Southern Virginia geographically, but really just everything outside of Northern Virginia. And a big part of that is Richmond and what's coming down the 95 corridor. And so there's a lot of hydrogen applications for the data center market. Most data centers, the backup generators are diesel. They're looking at long-term opportunities to change that over to micro reactors on the nuclear side, which currently the economics don't make sense for that, but in the future could be. But also hydrogen backup, which is incredible. I mean, I toured a 50 megawatt data center campus, which is substantial, but compared to some of these numbers we're talking about going forward with 500 megawatt, gigawatt data centers, 50 is really not that big. And they had 41 megawatt diesel generator backup in place that they have to have kind of connected and ready to go in case they lose power. And so there's a real opportunity there for hydrogen fuel long-term to potentially be a replacement. And we're really well positioned because we have the customer base built in, and that's not going away anytime soon. And it's only growing to take advantage of that. And there's just a lot of byproduct to this hydrogen process. We're talking to companies across the board that are really looking at not only the manufacturing of hydrogen fuel across the color spectrum, but are producing components that will go into the production of hydrogen fuel. So Ryan alluded to the TOPSO announcement. That's one. We're working with companies that are looking at different applications for hydrogen. One's actually looking to create a hydrogen byproduct, a hydrogen plasma, that could potentially be used in the cooling process in the data center industry. So there's really, I don't think we're fully understanding what the future of hydrogen looks like in Virginia, because we just don't know what the spinoffs could be outside of a new fuel source. And kind of going back to the initial question there, Chelsea, just what are we hearing from companies, and then what are we kind of saying back to them? they acknowledge that we're incredibly well positioned, not only along the East Coast because of our proximity to multiple mega regions, but the port is a massive asset to get product imported and exported. We also have, major manufacturing that's going on up and down the eastern seaboard, but primarily Virginia and South. We've seen the explosion of onshoring or reshoring of the manufacturing process over the last 4 to 10 years. And a bulk of that is actually in the Southeast and quite a bit here in Virginia as well. So we have there, especially when it comes to hydrogen. And proximity to decision makers is always going to be a game changer for us because of the federal government up in DC and the agencies up in Northern Virginia and up and down Virginia, because we have a huge presence in the Hampton Roads region as well. In addition to our military bases and installations, Virginia just we're full of decision makers at the federal level, and as Ryan alluded to, that's where a lot of the money is coming from to inject into this future energy ecosystem. And so I think as a state, we're incredibly well positioned. It's not a hard sell. Most companies are coming to us and they're already, shortlisting Virginia because they know they need to be here. And it's for all those reasons that we mentioned, the access, but also the industry. Having data centers is incredibly important to that growth because whether it's nuclear, hydrogen, or wind or solar, we are in Virginia at the forefront of dealing with what I'd say is not quite publicly known as an energy crisis, but we are, as Chelsea spoke to, we are not creating enough power long-term to match the demand that is coming over the next 15 to 20 years. And we are, because of our massive power growth in Virginia over the last 10 plus years and projected going forward, we're at the forefront of having to figure this out. And so companies know that. And they're coming to us to figure out how they can be part of that solution. And it's hydrogen, it's nuclear, it's wind, it's solar, it's a combination of all of that. And so it's an incredibly exciting time. And I'll turn it back over to you, Greg, or Chelsea, or whoever else.
Yeah, and I think the last slide is how do you get involved? And there's lots of ways, but I think Ryan has summarized some of the most important ways here.
The big thing is just reach out to one of us, especially if you're interested in getting involved with the Hydrogen Tech Center through Virginia Tech's Corporate Research Center, or if you're interested in economic development, talk to Alex, or I'm happy to talk about hydrogen anytime, and likewise pass you along to colleagues in Virginia Energy who may have additional information. Check out where this lies in the state of the Commonwealth here through Virginia's All-American All of the Above Energy Plan, available on the Virginia Energy website. There's also funding opportunities through the Virginia Power Innovation Fund and Program and Virginia Clean Energy Innovation Bank. There's a link to a website there off, again, the Virginia Energy website. For federal resources, hydrogen.energy.gov provides the federal resources related to hydrogen. And there are also federal tax credits to take advantage of. I'm not a tax professional, so please, contact your own tax attorney for looking into any of these, but they are available. And one thing that is kind of borne out in the past year or so is it's been better to wait a little bit to access these tax credits as more information has become available about their utilization. And I know Topso as well as one of the beneficiaries of these tax benefits. And anybody interested in either the hydrogen production space or in clean energy, please take a look at these resources.
Yeah, and I'll just point out the link that Ryan has, DOE, they produced a series of liftoff reports that are very content rich and get very deep in the weeds technically, if that's your thing. And there's a hydrogen liftoff, a nuclear liftoff, a long duration energy storage liftoff report, et cetera. And those are really good ways to kind of just get oriented, even though some of the math may have changed since last year. There's a lot of good basic foundational information in those. And I think, Greg, that is the
All
end.
right.
Yep.
There's your contact information. Good. Well, Chelsea and Alex and Ryan, thank you for that inspiring and very informative information presentation that you did. And I didn't realize, Alex, I mean, I've been dealing a lot because of the Global Internet Hub relating to data centers. I didn't realize, that all of a sudden maybe they're looking at hydrogen to help power some of them, because data centers, as you all know, take up an enormous amount of electricity to power. So let's quickly for some questions and answers, and I'm just going to throw this out to Chelsea and to the three of you, actually Chelsea, Alex, or Ryan. But what do you guys see as the biggest opportunities for disruption of the energy transition here in the Richmond and Hampton Roads regions as it unfolds? This whole energy transition. So what are the biggest opportunities?
I'll start, and then I think it would be great for everyone to give their own perspective. So one of the things that's been really interesting, especially spending 20-hour days in the office in Richmond for a couple of years, and then getting out the last few months and spending a lot more time on the ground with leaders and influencers and advocates and things like that, is that when you're just basically talking about the grid and energy, most people don't even know we have a problem, and they don't necessarily fully understand how this computing and hyperscaler and just the assets that we have, which are really great and add a ton of value to Virginia. I mean, we were #1 in business, #1 in education. There's a reason for that. And so the ones that do understand that we have a problem feel very powerless in terms of how they can help solve the problem and what opportunities that creates in turn. And so I think the energy transition means so many different things to so many people. I think there's a wide path for us to decarbonize. I believe it's going to take all of the things and all of us working collaboratively and being just honest about what the trade-offs are, because there's a trade-off for every choice that we make, even not making a choice. And I don't think that we have yet all come together on like what technologies, companies, supply chain mapping makes the most sense for us to invest in the near term based on what we've got going on. There's a lot of, you hear these more global concepts, you hear more of the federal policy conversations, or you hear West Coast policy conversations, and then it's just applied unilaterally to Virginia, which doesn't make sense. And so I think there's a lot of effort in recent months, especially, to overlay these different data sets to say, hey, we all love hydrogen. We love the promise of green hydrogen. Who doesn't want zero emission, energy solutions? Who doesn't want fusion? But Virginia has a set of assets. It has a set of resources, and the incentives that we give are different than other states. And so I think, the energy transition means different things to different states and different things to different regions. And so if all of the regions could identify, based on the assets and the talent and the resources they have, what makes the most sense, and then we work more collaboratively to feed that up into like, how are we solving the problem as a state? I think that it would truly be transformational, because we are at the tip of the spear, like Alex said. It's hitting us first. And so it's up to us to jump in there and create the solutions and the opportunities. And I don't know, Alex or Ryan, if you guys want to quickly.
I co-sign that statement. I think we have a lot of opportunity across and I honestly forgot the question. I was so absorbed into Chelsea's answer, so I apologize. But on that point, geographic diversity, we have so many assets across the state, and we're such a geographically diverse state that we really do have an opportunity to take full advantage of a lot of these emerging technologies and have a really healthy portfolio mix that really aligns with each region's future goals, and yeah, leave it at that.
And I'll just add, for our energy needs, it really does need to be all of the above, as is mentioned in the Virginia Energy Plan. It can't be an either or for our sources for any of these issues. And hydrogen is definitely going to be part of the mix. But we need to do it smartly and economically, and also just provide the incentives where they make sense. The Hampton Roads area could really be viewed as a hub from which this technology could spread to the rest of the state. And really the innovation could start here and then spread to other locations as it becomes cheaper and more efficient.
Great. Well, we're running out of time. Chelsea, if you'll stop sharing your screen and I can finish up the webinar. Thank you. There are two questions in the chat function that we just did not have time to get to, but I'll share them with you. And then if you have time, maybe you can respond to those particular individuals. That'd be great. Because one of them, I think, is both of them are very interesting and stuff, but we're running out of time, unfortunately. Just wanted to let people know what's happening next. You can go to our website to see all of our major initiatives that we have going on. Also, just a reminder, we did record this webinar and it's available. Will be available sometime later this afternoon on our website, so you'll be able to click on that to listen to it. Also, next month, on Wednesday, November the 6th, our next webinar, our Virtual Innovation Spotlight webinar, will be on the broadband connectivity. Dr. Tamara Holmes from the state's Office of Broadband, she will be the guest speaker to talk about Virginia's efforts to connect everyone with broadband and to close the digital divide. So that should be a very fascinating program as well. And that's on Wednesday, November 6th. That's the day after the election at noon, from noon to 1 o'clock. Also, again, thanks to our webinar sponsor, Atlantic Union Bank. Thank you, Andrew Kerr, for speaking to us. We appreciate that. Also, thank you to Chelsea and to Alex and to Ryan for your insight and information. There was a very well-informed presentation this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Sorry, we just run out of time. But thank you to each of you, and also thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. And we'll see you next month on Wednesday, November the 6th. Have a great afternoon.